criminal. Ben Roberts-Smith arrested at Sydney Airport, now charged with 5 counts of war crime murder. The Prime Minister's mission to shore up fuel supplies, the government denying claims that rationing is inevitable. Donald Trump's swipe at Australia as the clock ticks down on his new threat to obliterate Iran. No more needles, an easier way to vaccinate kids rolled out across the state ahead of a dangerous flu season. Over the moon, Artemis 2 takes its crew further into space than any humans have been before. And Panthers fans out in force ahead of their Thursday night thriller against the Bulldogs.
This is 10 News Sydney with Sandra Sully.
But first, Ben Roberts-Smith was once considered Australia's greatest living war hero. Now he's facing the prospect of life in prison for war crimes. The 47-year-old has been charged with 5 counts of murdering unarmed Afghans arrested by the Australian Federal Police after a flight into Sydney this morning.
Escorted from the terminal after arriving on a flight from Brisbane, a 5-year investigation led Ben Roberts-Smith into the custody of Australian Federal Police. They allege the Victoria Cross recipient is a war criminal, claiming he shot his alleged victims or ordered they be executed.
It will be alleged the victims were not taking part in hostilities at the time of their alleged murder in Afghanistan. It will be alleged the victims were detained, unarmed, and were under the control of ADF members when they were killed.
He has been charged with 5 counts of war crime murder, 2 of those in relation to intentionally causing the death of a person and 3 counts of aiding or abetting another person to intentionally cause death between April 2009 and October 2012 in Afghanistan. If convicted, the maximum penalty is life in prison. The investigation into alleged war crimes, one of 53 being conducted by the AFP and the Office of the Special Investigator.
The OSI has been tasked with investigating literally dozens of murders alleged to have been committed in the middle of a war zone in a country 9,000 kilometres from Australia that we can no longer access.
39 investigations haven't had sufficient evidence to result in charges, but their work is not done.
This is my message to the families of victims and the Australian community who want and deserve answers.
Last September, Roberts-Smith lost his final bid to overturn a High Court ruling which found it substantially true he committed war crimes. It followed a lengthy defamation case against 9 newspapers, which he initiated.
Their story is simply false. Their evidence is completely baseless.
This fresh court case makes Roberts-Smith the second Australian soldier to be criminally charged with war crimes.
It was a historic day for transparency and accountability, and particularly Australia's engagement in Afghanistan.
That resilience has another factor, which is we want no intention of prejudicing a matter that clearly is a legal matter and that's before the courts, and any comment would do so. Matthew.
Roberts-Smith uniform and medals remain displayed at the Australian War Memorial, which now says it will again review its wording. A Sydney bowling club also recently removed a sign dedicating the green to him. But today, Pauline Hanson rushed to defend Ben Roberts-Smith, saying she remains steadfast in her support, claiming he was disgracefully arrested in front of his twin girls. Others defended the ADF's name, saying the overwhelming majority do our country proud.
What we do know is the vast majority of our special forces do the right thing, and they deserve, as do all our veterans, the respect of our nation.
Sarah Naven, 10 News.
And Sarah joins me live at the desk now. Sarah, this is going to be a very complicated trial.
Yes, Sandra, this is a really unique situation where Ben Roberts-Smith is facing criminal charges when a civil case has already concluded in the federal court. It found on the balance of probabilities he committed 4 murders while serving, but in criminal cases, offences must be proven beyond reasonable doubt. That simply means the standard of proof is higher. If the matter proceeds to trial, his defence lawyers could certainly argue you'd be hard-pressed to find an impartial jury, given the national national coverage his defamation lawsuit received. So they may well argue for a judge-alone trial. Other challenges for both investigators and the courts is the lack of a crime scene. The Office of the Special Investigator said today these investigations often start with only one or two photos from the battlefield. They're not able to recover projectiles or conduct forensic analysis of scenes that they would typically rely on. So, Sandra, this could be the start of the most significant war crime prosecution in Australia's history, and it all starts tomorrow, where he'll appear before the bail court after a night in custody.
No doubt you'll give us an update tomorrow. Thanks, Sarah. The Prime Minister has moved forward a trip to Singapore, now travelling this Thursday to lock in critical fuel shipments from our biggest supplier. Indonesia has also vowed to keep fertiliser and urea flowing for Aussie farmers. The Middle East war bringing into focus that Australia is at the end of global supply chains.
The Prime Minister on a mission to secure our fuel supply.
Nothing beats a face-to-face engagement.
Announcing he'll travel to Singapore on Thursday, the trip brought forward as fuel uncertainty grows.
The certainty of those clear, close relationships is more important than ever.
Australia gets 26% of its petrol, diesel and jet fuel from Singapore, our biggest supplier, while Singapore relies on Australia for 32% of its gas, a key bargaining chip. Both nations have already committed to keep fuel flowing, but extra reassurance will be sought in person.
Our reputation as a good international supplier and a good international customer is really paying off.
The federal government today again shutting down suggestions fuel rationing's required. Supply chain expert David Leaney hopes it won't be needed, but
if necessary, ban jerry cans and ban all external storage containers being filled up at a petrol station. You can put in place limits, something like a 50-litre limit.
The Prime Minister's trip to Singapore comes as Indonesia's ambassador tells 10 News his country is committed to honouring its contracts for supplies of fertiliser and urea to Australia. But if asked to increase shipments to fill the gap from the Middle East countries,
that we need to fulfil the domestic demand first, because now we are moving toward some self-sufficiency on some commodity.
Cautiously welcomed by farmers anxious about fertiliser shortages as they prepare to plant crops.
Without our Australian farmers and the food and fibre they produce, Australia grinds to a halt pretty quickly, and nobody wants to see that happen.
We also need a longer-term plan to ensure this never happens again.
The Middle East conflict offering a stark reminder
of the need to make more things here, of the need to not be at the end of supply chains.
Hansel Dew, 10 News.
The state government is tonight assessing sensitive data that it forced fuel companies to hand over as it works to ensure continued supply. New South Wales has suffered the greatest petrol and diesel shortages in the country. Authorities are now preparing for further action.
We haven't heard this much, but today a big tick for the fuel companies.
I'm very pleased that the fuel companies have complied.
The Energy Minister had thrown down the gauntlet, issuing formal notices, effectively forcing a please explain on how they will support supply, particularly to regional areas.
The fuel companies have a very detailed understanding of where their fuel comes from, the timeframes and where it's going to into the future. That information is part of what they've provided to us, and that's what we're using to analyse and to make future plans if needed.
Governments at state and federal level insist rationing is still not part of that future. That would be at level 4 of the National Fuel Security Plan. Right now, we are only at level 2. As prices drop, so too has demand. Fuel sales right now are still around double normal levels, but at the peak of early war panic buying, it was about 5 times.
This has always been a demand-led crisis. We've got supply coming in. We have been consistently, but unfortunately Australians have been buying fuel differently.
Across the state today, 34 service stations are dry, down from 39 yesterday, and 125 are without diesel, down from 142.
Prices are stable. There are not many fuel stations that are out of both diesel and petrol.
The government says the fuel company's compliance with this urgent stock take is a key step in contingency planning, including for the worst-case scenario. But it also insists that is not on the horizon.
Things are stable. We are working hand in glove with the Commonwealth Government.
The challenge right now, finding certainty of supply in uncertain times. Matt Cannellan, 10 News.
The war in Iran is approaching a crucial turning point, with Donald Trump's deal deadline now just hours away. The US president took a swipe at Australia as he laid out his latest threats, claiming that Iranians want him to keep bombing the country.
Flanked by the First Lady and an Easter Bunny, Donald Trump talking war wins.
And what about the rescue that took place yesterday? What about that?
A brief detour before doubling down on threats to decimate Iran. The US president insists the offer on the table is final.
The entire country can be taken out in one night. We're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time, and after that, they're going to have no bridges, they're going to have no power plants.
Attacking civilian infrastructure could constitute war crimes, but Donald Trump has dismissed legal concerns, claiming Iranians are, quote, willing to suffer.
They want us to keep bombing. They want freedom.
The US is demanding Iran loosens its stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz to free up global oil supplies, a fight other nations haven't joined.
Japan didn't help us, Australia didn't help us, South Korea didn't help us, and then you get to NATO. NATO didn't help us.
We want to see a de-escalation.
And what matters here is we get the Strait of Hormuz opened up.
The regime is refusing to relent, one government minister calling for people to form human chains around power plants. The baseless threats of the delusional US president will have no effect on the offensive, this military spokesman says.
Today will be the largest volume of strikes since day one of this operation. Tomorrow, even more than today.
The White House boasting about attacks while praising the work of US service members for saving one of their own. It's been revealed more than 150 combat aircraft joined the mission to bring home a badly wounded American aviator who was found deep inside Iran.
Comparable to hunting for a single grain of sand in the middle of a desert.
The same military now preparing for what could be a seismic escalation as Donald Trump's deadline ticks down. It expires mid-morning tomorrow, Australia time. John Paul Gonzo, 10 News.
More than 130,000 children can now receive free flu vaccinations available in a nasal spray. The painless process hopes to increase the uptake in our young children, some of the most vulnerable in the state.
Quick, painless and the ultimate protection. Done! The nasal spray flu vaccine, free and now available for children between 2 and 4.
Yep, it's easy, it's safe, and yeah, it just takes a lot of any apprehension that they would out of giving a shot at all.
Just a quarter of all children under 5 were vaccinated across the state last year, well below the 40% target. But it's hoped the flu mist will increase uptake.
Making sure healthcare is affordable, accessible and importantly, as effective as possible.
New South Wales recorded the highest number of influenza cases on record last year, spiking at more than 186,000. And we're tracking to reach that number again.
The flu is a really serious condition. It isn't something that is a mild runny nose. It's something that is a really significant illness.
One that can have serious consequences.
Influenza remains the leading cause of hospitalisations in children under 5. 4,600 children were presented to emergency departments last year, with more than 960 admitted to hospital. That's a 40% increase compared to 2024.
Over the next 6 months, more than 133,000 vials will be rolled out to GPs and community pharmacies, arming our most vulnerable against what can be a deadly infection.
So we're hoping that this year shows a really big uptake, that lots of people say that this is successful, and then we're able to expand that to a bigger cohort of patients.
The Northern Hemisphere provide the nasal spray to patients aged up to 50, so teens and adults with a fear of needles could be next. Zoe Martin, 10 News.
In a landmark moment in space exploration, the 4 Artemis astronauts have become the first people in more than 50 years to reach lunar orbit, and the first to lay eyes on the moon's mysterious far side. The mission pushed past the limits of Apollo 13, travelling deeper into space than any human has before, marking a giant leap into a new era of exploration.
Rocketing into the record books, the Artemis crew literally over the moon.
It is awesome to see the side of the moon.
Earth's first lunar visitors in more than half a century, the crew flew within 6,500 kilometres of the moon's surface, taking in never-before-seen views of the far side.
It's just like we're a bunch of little kids up here, we cannot get enough of this.
For 40 minutes, the crew were utterly alone and without the prospect of help, enduring an expected loss of contact with mission control.
It is so great to hear from Earth again.
With the extraordinary expedition launching past the Apollo 13 distance record.
Today, for all humanity, you're pushing beyond that frontier.
Reaching deeper into space than any human has ever been.
We most importantly choose this moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived.
The historic day started with a wake-up song. And a special pre-recorded message from the late astronaut Jim Lovell, who commanded the famous Apollo 13 moon mission in 1970.
Welcome to my old neighborhood. It's a historic day, and I know how busy you'll be, but don't forget to enjoy the view.
There was no question of that, the astronauts describing colours of grey, green and brown on the lunar surface, as well as mesmerising structural features.
The islands of light, the valleys that would look like black holes, you'd fall straight to the centre of the moon. If you stepped in some of those, it's just so visually captivating.
The crew took more than 10,000 scientific images and named 2 craters on the far side, one for Commander Reed Wiseman's late wife, Carol.
It's a bright spot on the moon, and we would like to call it Carol.
They also witnessed a total solar eclipse before turning their attention to the journey home and a weekend splashdown off the California coast, ending a journey that's taken humanity further than ever and one giant leap closer to what comes next. In the United States, Catherine Firkin, 10 News.
Sorry, we're just catching up. We're both claustrophobic, so we're...
Yes, we were.
We're impressed, but chickens. Anyway, with sport now, Tara Rushton is here. And Tara, you don't blame the Panthers reliving the glory of their four-peat.
Yeah, they're back in the glory days, aren't they, Sandra? The question is, who in the world can stop them? With fans flocking to see their heroes, Penrith young gun Casey McLean's form cannot be ignored. So is he ready to be a Blue? Jason Day weighs in on the downfall of his idol, Tiger Woods, ahead of the Masters. And he's making it a habit. Nestor Irankunda is flipping out again as Aussies ignite in England. He is on fire, Sandra. I don't mind that celebration either. More coming up in sport.
See you then. Thanks, Tara. Stay with us. Still to come. A daring midnight rescue. How a cyclist became stranded in the Snowy River. The scary moment a group of robbers attack a delivery driver at Zetland. And crikey, the wild mission to get an injured gator to the doctor.